Hi. I was just telling Brian I'm taping. So, look at how sunny it is. I love it. I hope that it's okay with you that I'm in this room. So I'm in my sewing room. That's why there's all that fabric back there. And in case you guys didn't know, Brian's yelling at the dog. I made this one for me. So hold on. It's hard to wear these with glasses. Hold on. Look, Dr. Seuss, green eggs and ham. How cool is this? So I have tons of them. Um, you guys, I've made like over 500 of these. And for my students, right? You guys are my students. I'll make them for you for free. So you just have to message me, all right? Because I want you to survive this pandemic. That's really important to me. And if you need masks, let me know. Some of your friends have gotten some, and then their parents liked them, and their parents' friends liked them. And so, the parents and friends have paid. I've only asked $5 for each, but for you guys, they're free. And so the $5 is just kind of covering like mailing, because I've been mailing them all over the country. It also covers, I've had to go to, well, I haven't left the house. I call my local fabric store, which is a quilt shop. So these are CDC approved. It's 3 layers because your teacher has an autoimmune disease, so she wants everybody to be safe. So there's actually 3 layers in here. So there's the back. So these are reversible too, and they're washable. Okay. And so what you do is, the reason why they're 2 different sides is that you wear it, right? You go to the store for your mom and dad, right? You wear it, and then you take it off from the ears. You don't touch the front, right? Because that's the part that might have the coronavirus. And then you throw it into the wash, okay? And some people have asked, Brian has washed ours. Matter of fact, I don't know where he put it, but he's got one hanging in my bedroom. But he said he's just washed them either unsanitized, because we have that setting, or just in hot water, and that's it. So these are reusable, but you only want to wear them once and then wash them, okay? So because you're my students, I want to make sure that you understand that. But if you get this and say you're wearing yellow that day, or like I'm wearing purple, right? I have a purple shawl on. This was actually made for me. You guys know I knit, but I like to knit socks. Anyway, if I was going out, right, I have a black top on and I have my purple shawl, I might wear the yellow, right, because it matches. And so I would still take it off by the elastics, and then when I get home, I'll throw it in the laundry. So I've actually made a few, and like a few for me. I've made over 500. I have a wall. Let me see if I can show you this. Like, my room is a mess, so please don't look at it. It's like, seriously. See all those Post-it notes? Those are orders I'm still trying to fill. And up there that's a painting I did. And those are my angel wings. And there's another painting I did. See it? Because those of you that are in graphics, you should appreciate what I just showed you. So anyway, I'm not here to talk to you about masks, but if you need them, you know how to get in touch with your English teacher. I don't want to say your favorite because I don't want to be presumptuous, but I don't have to be your favorite teacher to make a mask for you, okay? Because I love all of you. And so if you need a mask, let me know. And I have them, like I have everything. I have fairies. I'm running low on fairies. I have sunglasses, and I have flip-flops, and I have Snoopy. And this one I made a mistake on. I've got to go back and fix it. But Patriots, see, so you put it on this way, but see how the Patriots is, right? It should, like, you want to wear it that way so people can read it. So I have to go back in and just switch these out. Look at, I have red socks, right? So I have like some really cool, I have only a couple. And I'm holding one out from Anna in our class, but look at Celtics. So anyway, let's get to our story, because that's really why I'm here. I've already talked to you for 5 minutes. It's because I miss you guys. Don't make me cry. I'm going to put the glasses back on. Okay, so we're up to book 3. And, if you're doing these with me, then you really only have to do 1 chapter a day. And then do your journal entries, and that will cover your 30 minutes of class time. So the school's saying that you should be doing 35 minutes for each class. And so if I'm reading with you, that counts as your class time. So you can do 1 video with me every day, and you'll get the book done, and you will you'll meet the requirements, okay? And I want to see your journal entries. Now, I know all of a sudden there's going to be things, my honor students, A and B week, you guys may not be doing journals because you're doing the post-it note thing that we've done. My college prep CP, A and B week, we are reading this. A week, you're listening to it, but Brian's going to give me the book to load up. So if you haven't started the videos yet, you'll have this in a PDF so you can follow along also. But I do require you to download the paper that has the journals, and it has the reading schedule. And then on YouTube, right? That's where you found this. All the chapters are there. And I try to put a note like what this is the last chapter of book 2. The people is before this chapter. So I try to give you a couple clues, but you should be using the reading list, okay? So before we move on, I keep going back to Ned's assassination, and I'm not entirely sure why, but for some reason, I don't know, like, if I were an activist, I don't know. I don't know if I'd be prepared to die for my cause. But we know from reading Emmett Till, he died for the cause, right? He was the catalyst for the civil rights movement, right? His unbelievable suffering is what's really, really gets the civil rights movement into action. So, for years and years and years, Blacks were given the right to vote before women, but they were given the right to vote, and most states adhered to it. We know the Deep South didn't. So there have always been those movements for equality for Blacks, but really until Emmett Till is killed in 1954, that exacerbates the civil rights movement, and it forces people to begin acting, right? So who do we see that's acting? 100 days later, Rosa Parks, right? Through Martin Luther King, who is, he was an activist, but he did like a passive resistance, I think is the phrase. Check with your history teachers because I might not be saying the word correctly. But, he did it, he felt, like doing the marches, Rosa Parks not giving up her seat, that these are passive actions, that you're not turning around and you're not fighting fire with fire, right? You're doing peaceful, I can't think of the word. And so, I think about Ned, and here's Ned, an activist at the turn of the century, 1800s into the 1900s. And all he's trying to do is educate Blacks. Like, that's it. And they want to kill him. And so it really shows us the turbulence of the time where, white men didn't want to see blacks getting ahead. And so these are big issues. And so Ned coming back here to Louisiana and teaching children to think, and to read and to write and to do math. Like, they will be powerful. And that's a threat. And so white supremacists like Albert Claveau, don't want to see that happen. And so they decide to assassinate him. But, what keeps coming back to me is that when Jane tells him, Albert Claveau is going to kill you, you need to leave. And he's like, no, like, I have a purpose. I'm here to do something, and I'm going to do it. And I know I'm going to die. Now, we just celebrated Easter, and I have to say that might be why this is bothering me so much. I think about, I watched Jesus Christ Superstar the other night with John Legend. I don't know if you guys even know who John Legend is. I'm going to say that you do. He's fantastic. I watched this last year, and I'm so glad that they showed it again. But, here's another man who walked the earth, who knew that what he was doing would get him killed. And he did it, if you're a Christian, he did it to save us, right? And so I think about that with Ned. And so when we look at Ned and we look at his assassination, I just think how brave he is, right? He takes it. He's not begging for his life. He takes it. He knows this is what's supposed to happen. And I just, like, it's just so emotional for me to just think that a man would lay down his life for people like us, right? So here's Ned, who knows that he has to die in order for these black children to get the proper education that they need and to be able to get the same equal rights that everyone else has. So, I want you to think about that. And maybe think about people today. We talked a little bit about Trayvon Martin. Now, Trayvon Martin didn't think he was going to be executed. He didn't think he was going to be killed. But we look at these lives and we have to think about, Emmett Till. Emmett Till didn't know he was going to die. But each of these lives are sacrificed. And we have to hope that it's sacrificed for the better good, right? The greater good. And so when you write in your journals, if you haven't done anything on this yet, you can. I will tell you, you're going to do a short writing assignment about something on this topic. I'll give you a choice of a few, but this is definitely one that I think that you could write a few paragraphs about and really logically connect it to issues that are happening today, right? So think about that. All right, so now we're 13 minutes in. Let's read a chapter. The Plantation. Okay, book 3. Samson. Okay. I knowed Aunt Hattie Jordan a long time before I came to Samson. She was the cook here then, had been cooking for the Samsons even before the war between the Seckish and the North. So she's talking the Civil War. When she got old, I'm sure she was already in her 70s when I met her, they gave her a horse and a buggy to travel around in. Once or twice a week she passed by my house when I was living on the river. When Albert Claveau died, I told her I was ready to move off the river. She asked me why didn't I come to Samson. I told her that wasn't too much of a move, 7 or 8 miles. I told her I wanted to go farther than that, so I wouldn't be reminded of these memories. She told me even if I moved 100 miles, I would still be near memories because memories wasn't a place, memories was in the mind. And she told me she knew, too, that I wanted to be close to Ned's grave so I could always put flowers there. After thinking about it, I told her she was right, and that's how I come to Samson. And that's where she winds up staying for the rest of the book. I came here one night and asked Paul Samson for the house. Paul Samson was the daddy of Robert Samson, who's running the place now. So you have to remember, right? These plantations, they're owned by a family and then they're passed down through generations. Okay, so Paul is who she meets, and then when Paul dies, Robert takes over. Okay, and so now that she's like over 100, Robert is the one in charge. You're kind of spare, ain't you? He said. How do I know you can carry your load? I told him I've been doing it for more than 50 years now. And you can be a little tired, he said. I think I'll be around 50 more, I said. You can have that room side Unc Gilly and Aunt Sarah, he said. But you're going to have to get here by yourself. I'll get here, I said. I borrowed a wagon from off the river and moved here by myself. It took me 2 trips, but I did it all by myself. It was spring because the people was plowing and hoeing in the field. Remember, hoeing is digging up the dirt, right? So that you turn the dirt when you do gardening, okay? Thanks. So sorry. Buzz Johnson was the water boy. Diamond was his mule. Used to carry the water in a great barrel with a hyphen stuck at one end. So it's sort of like she refers to it as a hyphen, but it's like where the knob, like to get water out of something, right? So if you filled up a barrel of water, there'd be like a spout at the bottom to fill your cup with water or your canteen, okay? One day he lost the hyphen and wasted all the water, and the people in the field almost wanted to kill him coming back there with nothing in the barrel. He made 3 trips to the field every day. He came in the morning around 9:30. He came at dinner time, so lunch would be called dinner time. And he came again in the evening. On the 12 o'clock run, the middle run, dinner time, he brought your dinner buckets. Most of the people had a little dime bucket, and Buzz Johnson looked like a junk man coming back there with them shiny little buckets all over the cart. When he was running late, he would have Diamond loping, and you could hear them dime buckets hitting against the water cart from way across the field. 30 or 40 dime buckets on the cart. Had so many of them, he had to put them in a crocker sack and hang the sack on Diamond's back. The people used to mark their buckets with little pieces of cloth, red, yellow, blue. Some put their initials on the top. Toby Lewis put a hog ring on the handle of his bucket. From then on, they called him Hog Ring Toby. They was calling Toby Lewis that when I came here. Hog Ring Toby. But he was the best man you had working out there. Could cut and load more cane, so sugar cane, than any other man ever lived in this place. Every year somebody was crazy enough to challenge him. And every year Toby broke down. Hawk Brown wanted to cut cane with him. Toby nearly killed Hawk. Joe Simon wanted to load cane with him. When Toby got through with Joe Simon, he could hardly pick up enough cane to chew. Now he had to work alongside the women. In the spring, instead of him getting a plow, now he had to get a hoe. That's what's used to dig the dirt. The worst thing happened in the field while I was out there was that thing with Black Harriet. Her name was Harriet Black, but she was so black. She was one of them Singalese people. So Singalese is a country in Africa. Okay? Just so you know. And the people called her Black Harriet. She didn't have all of her faculties, but she was still the queen of the field. So when people say they don't have all their faculties, they're talking about like up here, like she wasn't all with it. Maybe they might say, I don't want to. I'm not really sure. All I know is she doesn't have all of her faculties. So, she might be like good at working, but maybe not very smart. Okay. She was queen of the field. She was tall, straight, tough, and blue-black. So she's trying to describe the people of Singalese are very, very dark, dark, dark skin color. And so she's saying like she was so black that she was almost like that blue color, right? Cosmetology girls, you might understand this better than any of us. Women who have black hair, right? We can tell today my hair is brown. Women who have black hair, sometimes they have like a blue hue to their hair. And that's why she's saying blue black. So if you think of that black hair color that's has those blue hues to it. She could pick more cotton, chop more cotton than anybody out there, cut more cane than anybody out there, man or woman, except for Toby Lewis. She was queen long before I came there, and she probably would have been queen long after if Katie Nelson hadn't showed up. Katie Nelson was a little tight-butt woman from Bayonne, no kin at all to the Nelsons on the St. Charles River. They wouldn't own her. What sent Katie to Samson with that little red she called a husband, only God knows. He looked about much a husband as one of them fence posts. Soon as she got in the field, she started running off at the mouth. I'm going to beat her. Queen, huh? Well, she ain't going to be no queen for long. You wait, I'm going to queen her. Black Harriet would never say a thing, would stay to herself all the time because she lacked all her faculties. Working and singing one of them Singalese songs, never bothering a soul. Every morning, Katie Nelson would say, I'm going to get her. I'm going to get her. One morning, she came out there and said, this the morning. That man I got give so much loving last night. I'm just raring to go. Y'all ever seen a wild horse just raring to go? Well, y'all ain't seen nothing yet. Watch out there, Queen of Spade. Here I come. We was all for it. I got to say it now. We was all for it. That's how it was in the field. You wanted that race. That made the day go. Work, work. You had to do something to make the day go. We all wanted it. We all knowed Katie couldn't beat Harriet. But we thought the race would be fun. So that morning, soon as Katie said this was the day, we all said, go get her, Katie. Go get her. Katie said, here I come, Queen of Spade, ready or not. Katie trying to catch Harriet was like me trying to fight Liston. But Katie kept after her all morning. She knows she couldn't beat Harriet. But if she kept on talking, she could work on Harriet's mind. 12 o'clock, everybody got their buckets and sat down in the shade. Harriet sat under a little tree by herself and ate her fish and rice. When she got through eating, she filed her hoe and then just sat there waiting for 1 o'clock. I looked over there at her singing her Singalese song to herself, but she never paid me no mind. Katie was somewhere else with that little red thing she called a husband, about as much a husband as a dry bloodweed. Soon as dinner was over, she came back and started running off her mouth again. I didn't get you this morning, Queen of Spade, but I'll get you this evening. I'm going to run all that black off you. When I get through with you, you're going to be white as snowman. This world is so strange. Now, why a Katie Nelson? What good is one? Why here with that little red she called a husband? Why not Baton Rouge, New Orleans? Why not the North? Tell me. Tom Joe was out there that evening. He always rode that big red horse, always had on a cowboy hat and cowboy boots, had been a cowboy in Texas once, according to his story. But he was the overseer now, and he got as much fun out of the race as anybody did. They always made the rest of the people work faster. The first set of rows, nothing happened, but the next set, Harriet caught a row of wire grass. Wire grass is not hard to cut, but you have to get the roots or it'll spring back in a couple days. The grass slowed Harriet so much, Katie came up almost even with her. Now, to stay ahead of Katie, Harriet started leaving grass behind. Grace Turner was on the next row. At first, she caught all the grass that Harriet left behind, but the longer the race went on, the more grass Harriet left behind. Now everybody saw it. Tom Joe hollered at her from down the field, but she acted like she didn't hear him. She didn't even hear him. He hollered at her again. She still didn't hear him. She was chopping faster now and talking to herself in that single-lead tongue, chopping as much cotton down as she was chopping grass. Sometimes she was chopping cotton instead of chopping grass. We had all stopped and was just watching her now, watching that hoe go up and down, digging up as much cotton as it was cutting grass. We just stood there watching, not saying a word. Not one of us moved till Tom Joe went down there and started beating her across the back. He didn't try to take the hoe from her. He just rode down there and started beating her with the bridle reins. But the more he beat her, the more cotton she was digging up. Grace Turner was the first one to run down there. She pushed Harriet down and laid on top of her. Now Tom Joe started beating Grace just because she was trying to protect Harriet. Bessie Herbert ran down there with the hoe and threatened to chop his head off. And now Grace jumped up off Harriet and grabbed Bessie. We was all down there now, some of us pleading with Tom Joe, the rest of us trying to help Harriet. Harriet was just laying there laughing and talking in that single-lead tongue, looking at us with her eyes all big and white one second, then say something in that single-lead tongue the next second. Then all of a sudden she just bust out laughing. When we got her quieted down, me and Grace brought her to the front and cleaned her up. That night, they drove her to Jackson. The Samsons didn't do a thing to Tom Joe, but they fired Katie. And they told Bessie she had to leave the place. Bessie had a house full of children, but still, she had to go. They told her if she didn't have so many children, they would have put her in jail for threatening Tom Joe. Talk about a social injustice, right? So that is the end of this chapter. Why do they protect Tom Joe? And do you think it was fair that they all got fired and him, the overseer, doesn't get fired? I'm not going to talk to you much more because we're at almost 28 minutes. And I did a lot of pre-talking, so I'm going to end the chapter here. I will see you for our next chapter, The Travels of Miss Jane Pittman.